Welcome to HFY Codex. If you love epic sci-fi stories where humanity shines, you're in the right place. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for thrilling HFY adventures. Join us and be part of the journey. The new worker on deck. 9. The mining station floated above the red clouds of planet Creighton 4. It was a dangerous place. Full of dust, noise, and broken machines, humans and aliens worked side by side, but nobody made friends here. Most workers came for one reason: survival. No one cared who you were before, only how hard you worked. That day, a new worker arrived on Deck 9. She was small, quiet, and wore a thick gray hoodie that covered her face. No one knew her name, so they just called her Gray. She didn't talk to anyone, and she always kept her head down. Mason, a human engineer, noticed her right away. He had worked on this deck for 2 years and had seen many workers come and go, but there was something strange about this one. She moved like she didn't belong in a dirty place like this. Fast, careful, and almost too perfect new alien worker, Rico muttered as he chewed his food. Looks like another refugee from the outer moons. Maybe, Mason replied, still watching her from across the mess hall. She wasn't eating, just sitting in the corner. Alone, every night, she came to work early. Every morning, she left last. No mistakes, no talking, and no trouble. But that only made Mason more curious. One evening, a loud alarm screamed through the station. Red lights flashed across the walls. "Warning! Shaft D overheating!" the system repeated. Everyone froze. If Shaft D exploded, it would burn the whole deck. Before the crew could react, Gray was already running. She dashed into the tunnels without waiting for orders. "Hey!" Mason shouted. "You can't go in there!" But she didn't stop. Mason grabbed a heat suit and chased after her. The metal walls were hot to the touch, and steam hissed from broken pipes. Sparks flew from the control panels. When he reached Shaft D, he couldn't believe his eyes. Gray was standing in front of a glowing console. She raised her hand slowly. The machine responded, not with buttons, but with light. Blue energy flowed around her fingers like it was alive. She wasn't fixing the system. She was controlling it. Like the machine knew her, trusted her. Mason froze, watching from behind a pipe. Who was she? The heat in the room was unbearable, yet she didn't sweat, didn't panic. Her hoodie slipped down from her head as she worked, and then he saw her face for the first time. She wasn't just an alien worker. Her skin was smooth like polished silver. Her eyes glowed softly, bright blue like electric stars. She looked young, but ancient at the same time. She turned and saw Mason standing there. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then she said in a clear, calm voice, "You should not have followed me." What are you?" Mason asked, barely able to speak. She looked at the cooling machine behind her, now silent and safe. "The station is no longer in danger," she replied. "I came here to hide, not to be found." The alarm stopped, and the emergency lights faded. Gray pulled her hoodie back up and started to walk away. But Mason stepped in front of her. "Wait," he said. "You saved us. But why were you hiding?" She paused and looked at him. "I'm not what I appear to be," she said quietly. "I needed to stay hidden, but now it may be too late." Before Mason could ask more, she disappeared down the tunnel, leaving only the sound of cooling pipes behind. Later that night, Mason sat in his bunk. He couldn't sleep. He kept seeing her glowing eyes, the way the machine obeyed her. She wasn't just a worker. She was something powerful, something secret, and she had just revealed herself to him. The secret beneath the hood. The next shift on Deck 9 felt strange. The machines roared, the vents hissed, and the crew moved like normal. But Mason couldn't stop thinking about the girl in the hoodie. No one else spoke about the night before. It was like nothing had happened. like nobody saw her save the station, but Mason had seen it. He had seen her hand glow. He had seen the machine respond to her, and he had seen her face, alien, beautiful, and powerful, too powerful to be just a worker. He looked for her all day, but she didn't come to work. She wasn't in the dorms or the mess hall, not even on the crew list. It was like she had vanished. That night, Mason skipped dinner and walked the service tunnels alone. He didn't know what he was looking for. Maybe answers, maybe her, maybe both. The pipes rattled above his head, the lights flickered every few steps, then he heard a soft sound. Not footsteps, music. It was coming from an old storage bay no one used anymore. He followed it, heartbeat rising. Inside, the lights were dim, but the music was clear, soft, slow, and sad, like something from Earth. But older, and there she was, sitting in the corner on a metal crate, gray, hoodie pulled up, head lowered. "You're not supposed to be here," she said without looking. "Neither are you," Mason replied, stepping closer. She didn't move, just kept listening to the music. "I saw what you did in Shaft D," he said. "I saw your face." "I know," she whispered. Her voice sounded different now. "Not cold, but tired. You're not just an alien, are you?" Mason asked. She finally looked up and slowly pulled back the hoodie again. "No," she said. "I'm not." Her eyes glowed faint blue again, but there was pain in them. "I was a daughter of House Tyrellin," she continued. "A royal bloodline from the star system Ulrian." Mason blinked, confused. "I don't know what that means," he admitted. "It means I used to matter," she said softly. "Before the war, before the betrayal, before I became this." She stood up and touched the wall panel. A hidden door opened behind her. Mason followed her into a small chamber, dark and filled with strange symbols glowing on the floor. "What is this?" he asked. "A memory," she replied. "One I thought I could leave behind." She walked to the center of the room and placed her hand on a control orb. A soft hum filled the air. Then a hologram appeared. An alien city in flames, ships in the sky, screaming voices. "This was my home," she said. Before it was taken, Mason watched in silence. He didn't understand everything, but he felt her pain. "Why are you here?" he finally asked. "To survive," she said. "To hide. But why here? A mining station." "Because no one looks for a princess in the dirt," she said bitterly. "No one asks questions on Deck 9. Mason stepped closer. "You saved us," he said. "You could have let the shaft explode, but you didn't." She nodded slowly. "I couldn't watch people die again." For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then she looked at him serious. "You saw too much, Mason," she said. "Now you're in danger, too." "Danger from who?" "From those who hunted me," she answered. "They will come." "Then let them come," Mason said firmly. "I'm not leaving you alone." She stared at him, surprised. No one had said that to her in a long time. "You don't even know me," she said. "But I want to," Mason replied. A strange silence filled the room. Not empty, but full of something new. A spark, maybe, or a beginning. The hunters from the stars. The next morning, the sky above Craden 4 was darker than usual. Thick clouds swirled above the mining station. Lightning crackled across the red sky. It was not natural. Mason felt it deep in his chest, like the air. Itself was warning them. He had barely slept. His thoughts kept returning to her. The alien girl with glowing eyes and a lost kingdom. He still didn't know her name. She had only told him what she had lost, but not who she truly was. Mason walked to the main control room. He wanted to check the weather data, but what he found was something else entirely. An unknown ship had entered Craden space. No ID, no signal, no response, just a dark black cruiser floating near the upper orbit. It didn't answer the stations. Hails, and it didn't dock. It just waited, like a shadow. The station commander thought it was pirates. Security teams were put on alert, but Mason had seen enough to know better. He ran down to the hidden chamber where she had shown him her memories. She was already there, standing still, eyes locked on a red screen. "They found me," she whispered. "I don't know how, but they found me." "Who are they?" Mason asked. "They are not people," she said, voice shaking. "They are machines, hunters. They destroyed my world, erased my family, and chased me across the stars." Mason felt cold. "How did they find you now?" She turned to face him. "Because I used my power to save the station," she said. "I activated my signature and they must have picked it up." The red screen beeped twice. The ship was moving, toward the station, slowly, without sound. "We have to warn the others," Mason said. But she grabbed his arm. "No," she said quickly. "If you tell them, they will panic. And panic is exactly what the hunters want. Then what do? "We hide," she said. "For now." Suddenly, the lights above flickered, then shut off completely, all over the station. Systems died one by one. Power, doors, lights, everything. Only emergency red lights stayed on, glowing dimly like blood. EMP. "Pulse," she said, her voice flat. "They're here." The ship didn't fire weapons. It didn't land. Instead, it sent something worse. Mason looked through a side window and saw them. Small black drones dropping silently onto the hull. They moved like insects, but sharper, faster. One by one, they crawled inside the vents, entering the station. Security officers tried to stop them, but bullets didn't work. The drones moved too quickly, dodging and slicing like shadows with blades. Screams echoed through the hallways. Mason grabbed her hand. "We can't stay here," he said. "There's an escape pod in Bay 6. She nodded, and they ran. Through dark tunnels, past broken lights and dead bodies, the station was falling apart. Suddenly, one of the hunters dropped from the ceiling in front of them. It stood tall, its body made of black metal, face smooth and featureless. It didn't speak, only raised a glowing spear. Before Mason could react, she stepped forward. Her hoodie fell, and her eyes lit up like stars. Blue light pulsed from her hands. She spoke in a strange language, ancient and powerful. The machine stopped moving. It trembled, like it recognized her. Then it exploded into pieces without a sound. Mason stared. "You didn't just stop it," he said. "You commanded it." "I'm the last of my line," she said, breathing hard. "They were built to serve my people long ago. But now they hunt me instead." They kept moving, her power dimming as she grew weaker. Each time she used it, it took more from her, and the station had more hunters now. Dozens, maybe. Finally, they reached Bay 6. The escape pod was still working, untouched, but before Mason could open the hatch, she stopped him. "If I leave, they will follow," she said. "If you come with me, they'll come after you too." "I can't ask you to do that." Mason looked her in the eyes. "I'm not leaving you," he said. "You saved me. Now it's my turn." She stared at him, silent, then nodded, slowly. They entered the pod together and launched into space, leaving the burning station behind. But the darkness of the stars held new dangers. The real hunt had just begun. Escape into the void. The escape pod floated through the endless blackness of space. No lights, no sound, only the cold hum of the engine. Inside, Mason sat across from her, watching her breathe. She was unconscious, her silver skin pale, her eyes closed. She had used too much energy fighting the hunter. Now she looked fragile, like a dying flame. Mason had wrapped her in a thermal blanket, but even that didn't stop the chill. He tapped the console screen. The pod was drifting away from Creighton 4. No communication, no signal, and barely enough fuel to change course. Just two people alone in the dark, Mason stared at the girl across from him. He still didn't know her name. He had followed her, protected her, and nearly died beside her, but she had never told him who she really was. Not fully. Suddenly, the pod beeped softly. A proximity alert. Something was out there. Just beyond the sensors, Mason peered through the tiny window, and there it was, a strange structure floating in the void. It wasn't a ship or a station. It looked like a temple, carved from dark stone, silent, massive, and ancient. The pod was being pulled toward it, slowly but surely, as if the structure had its own gravity, or worse, a will. He tried to change course, but the thrusters wouldn't respond. The pod kept drifting closer. Suddenly, she opened her eyes. "Where are we?" she asked weakly. Mason turned to her, relieved she was awake. "I don't know," he said, "but we're being pulled toward that thing." She sat up slowly, her body still weak. When she saw the temple, her face went pale. "No," she whispered. "It can't be." "You know it?" Mason asked. She nodded slowly. "It's called the Hall of Echoes," she said. "It's older than any kingdom, any star map. It's a graveyard of memories." Before he could ask more, the pod docked itself at a circular gate. With a hiss, the door opened and cold air rushed in. Mason grabbed a light and stepped out with her. The hallway was wide and silent. Symbols covered the walls, strange shapes that shifted when you looked too long. The air smelled old, like dust and forgotten time. They walked carefully, step by step. The floor was made of smooth glass. Below it, Mason could see images moving like shadows from other worlds. "This place stores the minds of the fallen," she said. "The kings, queens, warriors, and traitors of my people. The hall listens, and it remembers." As they moved deeper inside, a glowing orb floated toward them. It stopped in front of her and pulsed softly. Then, a voice spoke, ancient and powerful. "Child of Terrellin," it said, "you have returned." Mason looked. Around in shock, the voice wasn't coming from speakers. It was inside his mind. "I didn't come to stay," she said aloud. "I need help." "You are hunted," the voice replied, "and the blood of your enemies stains the stars. But you are not ready." "I have no choice," she said. "If I don't stop them, they will burn every world I touch." The orb floated closer to Mason. "You are human," it said to him. "Why do you walk beside a fallen queen?" "Because she saved me," Mason answered, "and I won't let her face this alone." The orb went silent. Then it pulsed again, brighter. "You are brave," it said. "Few of your kind have walked these halls." The walls shifted again, and a hidden door opened. Inside was a chamber filled with glowing crystals. In the center stood a pedestal with a small crown made of light and silver. She stepped forward and reached for it, but her hand trembled. "If I take it, I become what?" She whispered. "A ruler, a target." Mason placed his hand on hers. "You're already being hunted," he said. "But if you take it, you won't run anymore." She looked into his eyes, then nodded, slowly. She lifted the crown, and it floated above her head. A wave of blue energy spread through the room. The ground shook gently. The temple responded. The Hall of Echoes had awakened, and its queen had returned. But far above them, in the dark of space, the hunter ship was still searching, and it had found their trail again. The signal of the crown. The crown hovered above her head. Its light flickered like a heartbeat, soft, steady, ancient. Mason watched in silence, not sure if he should bow or run. The chamber around them hummed with energy. The Hall of Echoes was no longer quiet. She stood taller now, her silver skin glowing under the crown's light. Her eyes, once filled with fear, now held fire. The woman who had once hid in a hoodie was gone. In her place stood a queen reborn. "The crown has accepted you," the orb said, floating near her. "You are once again the rightful bearer of the Trellin line." She turned to Mason, her voice steady. "This crown is not just a symbol," she said. "It is a key, a beacon." "A beacon?" Mason asked. She nodded. "The crown sends out a signal across space," she said, "to awaken what is left of my people. To call them back." Mason's stomach tightened. "So, the hunters can follow it too?" "Yes," she said quietly. "But so can allies." The walls of the hall shifted again. A new chamber opened, circular and wide. In the center stood a device like a throne, made of crystal and stone, with tendrils of light running through it. She stepped toward it slowly. "I have to sit there to complete the signal," she said. "But once I do, the hunters will know exactly where I am." Mason looked at the door behind them. "We don't have weapons," he said. "We don't have soldiers." She looked at him, her voice softer now. "But I have you." Mason swallowed hard. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't royalty. He was just an engineer from Earth. But he nodded. "Then let's do it," he said. "Together." She sat on the throne, and the light swallowed her whole. The crown pulsed brighter. Her body shook as the throne connected to her mind. Streams of memory and light poured out from her skin, into the walls, into the floor, into the stars. Mason shielded his eyes. He could hear voices, whispers in languages he didn't know, names, places, cries for help. The hall was speaking through her. Trellin was waking up, but far away something else woke up too. High above the black edge of the galaxy, the hunter. Ship changed direction. It no longer drifted. It flew. Its engines screamed through space, toward the signal, toward the crown, toward the queen. Inside the temple, the light dimmed again. She opened her eyes, sweating, breathing hard. "It's done," she said. "The call has been sent. Did anyone answer?" Mason asked. "I don't know," she whispered. "I hope so." But before they could speak again, the orb pulsed red. "Warning," it said. "Unknown vessel approaching at high speed." Mason ran to the outer hall. He looked through a crack. In the stone wall, the hunter ship had arrived, sleek, black, and silent. It hovered above the temple like a hawk over its prey. Dark drones spilled out from its belly. They flew in patterns, surrounding the ancient structure. Then the main hatch of the ship opened. Something stepped out. It wasn't like the other hunters. It was taller, cloaked in black armor with long limbs and a glowing red face. "What is that?" Mason whispered. She stood beside him, eyes locked. On the figure, "That's not just a hunter," she said. "That's an executor." "A what?" "A machine built only to kill royalty," she said. "If it reaches the throne room, I die." Mason's heart pounded. He looked at the hallway behind them. Only narrow stone passages and flickering lights. No soldiers, no weapons, no way out. But then he remembered something. "The Hall of Echoes stores memories, right?" he asked. She nodded. "Then maybe it remembers how to fight," he said. He ran back into the signal chamber and placed his hand on the orb. "I'm human," he said, "but I stand with her. Show me how to protect her." The orb glowed white. A panel opened from the wall. Inside was something wrapped in ancient cloth. Mason pulled it free. A weapon, light as air, sharp as starlight. It wasn't a gun. It was something older, a blade of crystal and sound. He turned to her. "They're coming," he said. She nodded, her hand glowing with blue energy again. "Then let's greet them," she said. The temple doors groaned open, and the first drone stepped inside, then another and another. But this time, they would not find a runaway. They would find a queen and her human, and neither of them would run again. The queen and the human fight back. The temple trembled as the first wave of hunters entered. Their blades hissed, and their red eyes scanned the shadows. They expected to find a scared girl hiding. They expected silence, weakness, surrender. What they found was something else. She stood tall in the center of the chamber, her eyes glowing, her hands crackling with light. Beside her stood Mason, holding the blade of crystal and sound. It hummed softly, as if remembering 1,000 battles. "Long ago, I thought you said you weren't a fighter," she whispered to him. "I'm not," Mason said, gripping the hilt tighter. "But I'm not letting them take you." The first drone lunged. It moved like lightning, faster than any human could react. But she didn't flinch. Her hand rose and a wave of energy burst from her palm. The drone hit the wall and shattered into pieces. Another came from the side. Mason stepped forward, swinging the blade. It cut through the air with a sharp tone. The drone split in two, falling silent. The chamber lit up with flashes of blue and red. They moved together, queen and human. She guided the energy, bending light and force like wind. He struck with raw instinct, the blade singing in his grip. More hunters came crawling from the walls. They were endless, shadows with steel claws. But the Hall of Echoes began to shift. The floor opened and old machines rose. Defense systems awakened after centuries of sleep. Turrets unfolded from the walls, firing beams of pure heat. Barriers of light formed in the doorways, slowing the invaders. The hall was protecting its queen again. "Behind you!" she shouted. Mason ducked, spinning and slicing another drone. One cut grazed his shoulder, but he kept moving. "You're bleeding," she said. "I've had worse," he replied, panting. "No, you haven't," she said with a small smile. But there was no time to laugh. The executor finally entered. It stepped through the smoke and sparks without hurry. Its black armor shimmered with red lines. In its hand was a staff of pure death energy. Its eyes locked onto her. No emotion, no fear, only programming. All other drones stopped, backing. Away like soldiers before a king. The battle paused. The air turned cold. "I'll handle him," she said, stepping forward. "No way," Mason said, blocking her. "You're still weak." "He was built to kill me," she said. "I have to face him." He looked at her, jaw tight. "Then we do it together." She nodded, then raised her hand toward Mason. Blue light flowed from her fingers. It wrapped around him, entering. "His skin!" he gasped, feeling something surge through him. Warmth, strength, clarity. "What was that?" he asked. "A gift," she said. "A link between us." The executor raised its staff and charged. The floor cracked under its feet. She met it head-on, unleashing a storm of light. Mason followed her lead, the blade pulsing brighter with each. Strike! The executor was strong, too strong. It blocked her attacks, spun, and knocked her to the ground. Mason shouted and swung his blade at its head, but it caught the blade in one hand and threw him back. He hit the wall hard, breath knocked. From his lungs, the blade slid across the floor. The executor stepped over her, staff aimed at her chest. Her power flickered. Her eyes dimmed. She was too weak now. The crown pulsed faintly, as if calling for help. Mason forced himself up, bleeding, dizzy. He looked at her, how she had fought for him, saved him, trusted him, and something deep inside. Him answered. The link between them flared bright blue. The blade leapt from the floor into his hand. The executor turned too late. Mason drove the blade straight into its chest. The crystal hummed, and the light exploded. The machine screamed, not with sound, but with static and fury. It collapsed, burning. The staff clattered to the floor and melted. The silence after was deep and heavy. Mason dropped to his knees. Shaking, she crawled to him, her hand touching his cheek. "You did it," she said softly. "No," Mason whispered. "We did it." The drones powered down, falling like broken dolls. The Hall of Echoes returned to silence, and for the first time she wasn't running anymore. The stars. Remember her name. The Hall of Echoes was quiet again. The crown still hovered above her head, glowing softly like a moon. The floor was littered with broken machines, shattered drones, and fading sparks. But there was no more danger. Now only silence and breath. Mason sat with his back against the wall, holding his side. He was bruised, tired, and covered in cuts, but he was alive. She knelt beside him, her fingers glowing as she healed the worst of his wounds. "You saved me again," she said, her voice soft. "You saved everyone," Mason replied, wincing as her light worked through him. "I couldn't have done it without you," she whispered. He smiled weakly. "Then I guess I'm your royal bodyguard now." She laughed, a real laugh, bright and warm. It echoed across the chamber. And for the first time in a long time, she didn't sound like someone running. She sounded like someone coming home. The orb floated toward them again. "The executor is destroyed," it said. "The signal of the crown remains active. Responses are coming." "What kind of responses?" Mason asked. "Ships," the orb replied. "Some carry your allies, some do not." She stood, the crown rising higher above her head. "We need to face them," she said. "All of them." She walked to the center of the hall and raised her hand. The walls shifted and turned, revealing a great skylight above them. Stars blinked through the open ceiling. Ships began to appear, tiny lights moving fast across the black. The first one landed quietly. Its hull bore the sigil of Torellan, a phoenix made of starlight. A ramp lowered, and tall figures stepped out. They wore cloaks of silver and armor that shimmered. They saw her and fell to one knee. "Your Majesty," the leader said, "we received your call. We thought your line had ended." "It did not," she replied, voice clear and strong. "I am the last flame of my house, and I will rise again." Mason stood beside her, confused but proud. The alien soldiers looked at him with curiosity. They had never seen a human standing next to a queen, especially not one holding a royal blade. "He fought beside me," she said. "He bled for me. He is not one of you, but he is mine." The soldiers nodded. No one questioned her, not anymore. More ships landed. Some carried other survivors, hidden families from lost colonies. Some carried supplies, doctors, engineers. But one ship came with no welcome. Its symbol was jagged and dark, a rival house, a power-hungry enemy. It hovered above the hall like a storm, and then it sent a message: "Surrender the crown or burn with it." Mason looked at her. "What now?" he asked. She stepped forward, her voice sharp like thunder. "Let them come," she said. "I have a hall that remembers, a blade that sings, and a human who won't leave my side." She turned to Mason. "This isn't just my fight anymore," she said. "It's ours." Together they walked toward the gate, she in her light, he in his wounds. And behind them, the Hall of Echoes began to rise. Stone lifted into the sky, engines long buried roaring to life again. The hall was not just a temple. It was a ship, an ancient one, powerful and forgotten. Now reborn with its queen, as it rose into space, the stars shimmered. Old names whispered through the cosmos, names thought lost, names buried in fire, but one name returned to the stars, hers, and beside it another name, one never written in royal books, a human name spoken not with rank, but with loyalty, Mason. The stars remembered them both, the queen who refused to fall, and the human who stood beside her when no one else would. Their war was not over, but their story had begun. Together, they would light the dark again.